Well, number one, good culture can accomplish high performance out of your people, right? Have you ever heard of the term performance culture? We like to have our employees and our team be productive. And nothing kills productivity more than a bad culture, right? If your painters feel like they don't want to be there, or they don't like their employees, or they don't like their boss, or whatever, like you're not going to get high performance, productivity out of them.
Welcome to the Painter Growth Podcast, where we help you scale your painting company in record time. Join us as we explore sales, marketing, hiring, finances, leadership, and more, everything that you need to know to scale and grow your painting business. I hope you enjoy and subscribe.
What is up, everybody? Mike Hickman here, founder of paintergrowth.com, and y'all are listening to the Painter Growth Podcast. Welcome to Monday. And in today's episode, we're just going to have a little fireside chat here. Just me and you, just us hanging out together, doing your thing. You're driving, you're painting, maybe even you're sitting down at your computer watching this. I don't think many people do that, but whatever you're doing, let's have a good time. Let's talk about culture and how we can build team culture in our businesses. What culture means, what good culture is, what bad culture is. What are the things that we can do? What are the tactics that we can do to get the most out of our people? Right, to create and foster a great culture, a great environment. Now, I don't know if you've ever worked in a business before. I mean, I feel like after doing this podcast, I could probably get a job on the radio somewhere. I don't know if my voice is good enough for that, but I feel like being able to fill up all the blank space is a good skill to have if I ever want a career in radio. Anyway, with that being said, let's get into culture, right? So if you've ever had a job where culture was very bad, you can probably think back to kind of like the buzzwords that come up. It's like toxic workplace, insubordination, bad leadership, too much autonomy, or maybe the opposite of that, maybe micromanaging, right? All of these things can kind of lead to bad culture. And the kind of two main levers that you have to foster good culture is, number one, being a good leader, and number two, fostering good culture itself in itself. And so I'll go into some tactics and stuff that you can do for that. Now, really, what is culture? When does culture manifest? Culture is when two or more people from your business are interacting. That's when culture happens. So if you have two painters and they paint together all day, and you never do meetings with them, and you never really oversee them, and they're just talking to each other all the time, and they both have bad attitudes, and they're just bashing the clients, bashing the homeowner, bashing management, bashing the products, that's bad culture, right? That negativity. And even if they don't say those things in front of clients know. People can tell. People can get vibes off people, feed off their facial expressions and their body language. And so if you have negative people in your business, you're going to have a negative culture. So we don't really want that. We want to have a good culture, because when you do have a good culture, you think back to if you've ever had a good leader, what can good culture accomplish? Well, number one, good culture can accomplish high performance out of your people, right? Have you ever heard of the term performance culture? We like to have our employees and our team be productive. And nothing kills productivity more than a bad culture, right? If your painters feel like they don't want to be there, or they don't like their employees, or they don't like their boss, or whatever, you're not going to get high performance, productivity out of them. So good culture enables performance. It enables people trying, people wanting to do a good job, ownership, and ultimately the clients feel it, right? Job satisfaction. You want your employees to show up, put in their work and feel good about their jobs. So bad culture, on the other hand, can literally steamroll a business. It can destroy a business. And, bad culture, just like I said, the employees bad mouthing each other, lack of management or micromanagement, all of those things can lead to bad culture. And a lot of culture can be initiated on the type of person that you hire. So the recruiting process is very important. That's why I always preach that recruiting for personality and attitude is way more than recruiting for skill, because skills can be taught, attitude cannot. Hey, that's a little rhyme. You can go ahead and take that. Quote me on it. Skills can be taught, attitude cannot. I'm sure I'm not the first person to ever say that. So when you're, when you're doing interviews for your painters or whoever, your helpers or whoever you're recruiting, your managers, your salespeople, do they make you feel good? Are they happy people? Are they positive? Are they on time? Are they responsible? These things are so much more important than, do they know how to set up a sprayer? How many hours have they painted before? How many years have they painted? Do they have their own tools? Like, those things are way less important than attitude, personality. So, when I was painting, when I was running my business, it was very important to me to foster good culture. I wanted my team to love working for me, love showing up for work, because I knew the more that I invested in them and their enjoyment of the job, the more they would get done for me, right? The higher their productivity would be, the more money I would make. And it's kind of like self-serving. It's a little bit selfish. And I was saying this the other day in one of our team calls. We were talking about hiring virtual assistants. It's selfish to provide your employees a good environment and a good working environment and a good culture and a good work experience. Because if you want to be self-serving and you want, the most out of your team, and you want them to work the hardest for you, day in and day out, week in and week out, then you better give them a good employment experience. Let them love their work, have a good culture in your team, be a good leader. All of these things are selfish for you because you get the output. It's not just doing it for them. They will appreciate it and they will love you for it, but it's not just for them. It's ultimately for you. So being a good leader is a selfish task because ultimately you get to reap the rewards, but everyone wins at the same time. So how can you foster a performance culture? Now, one part of it is being a good leader. And just saying that term, being a good leader, it's pretty like obtuse. Like, what does that even mean to be a good leader? You want to be, I'm going to say some buzzwords here, but you want to be inspiring and you want to be helpful and you want to be supportive and you want to let people, not micromanage people and all these things. But, and there's a million books that you could read on how to do that. If you're looking for a quick one, I think it's called the 1 Minute Manager by Ken Blanchard, I think. There's a bunch of different ones, but if you just want a quick listen, like go on Audible, download the 1 Minute Manager, one of the variations of the 1 Minute Manager. It's fun. It's story-based. It gives you kind of the idea of the different leadership styles. If you want to be like the different situational leadership styles, if you, based on, your people. But definitely check that, that book out if you're looking to just get started to learn a little bit more about leadership. Yeah, the 1 Minute Manager. But when we're talking about, building culture, there's two types of things that we need to be doing. We need to do meetings with our team and we need to do some culture events. And these are really simple to implement. They take a little bit of time. And if you're working 1 million hours a week and you don't have any time, then it can be easy to not do these things, but they're really important. Now, I like to break down team meetings. Let's just focus on team meetings first. My guess is that most of you listen to this don't meet with your team in a formal capacity. Like, you might obviously meet with your employees or your painters or your subs, whatever, when you show up on site and you just talk about the project. But how often do you do a performance review? How often do you check in with them personally? How often do you ask them what's going on in their lives? If there's anything that they need support with, if they're comfortable with money, if they're happy with their earnings, like all of these things, showing that you actually care is really important. So there's a few different meetings that I would recommend implementing. And the first is a weekly one-on-one with each employee, each team member. Now, if you have a production manager and you have like over 10 painters, then your production manager can ultimately do these. You're going to want to do them with your production manager first so they understand, what it's all about. But in a weekly one-on-one, you're checking in with them personally. Hey, do you have any, hey, painter, hey, John, do you have any like personal 911s right now that you need to deal with, or are you okay to be here, be present? Okay, you're good. Cool. Let's talk about the week. Okay, how did last week go? What went well? What didn't go well? Okay, now we got this week. Here's the projects. Any what product do you think you're gonna need? Do you need any tools? Any roadblocks that you can think potentially happening? Okay, cool. Sounds good. Have a great week. We'll talk to you soon. Like, having a formal one-on-one meeting like that, it can even be like 15 or 20 minutes. Just a chat, phone chat, Zoom chat, or in person, whatever. But have a formal time where they're sitting in their truck, they're uninterrupted. Maybe you have coffee once a week and you just have a little agenda that you go through. What went well last week? What didn't go well? What would you do differently? And then this week, what's going on? Do you anticipate any challenges? And personal check-in. Super easy and really, really valuable to get to know your people. Even if you're using a sub model, like, you want to do this with your subs, because otherwise, like, your subs are the people that are representing your company. So how else are you going to get to know them? How else are you going to be able to check in with them? What went well, what didn't go well, if you're not doing these formalized meetings? And you'll find that, yeah, it takes a little bit of time to do these up front, but it's actually going to save you a lot of time in the short run, because you're not going to be doing so many back and forths. You're going to be able to spot problems before they happen, before they manifest in your business. Your team is going to do require less communication with you, because you're doing these frequent check-ins. And bonus points if you can just set up a little spreadsheet or working document that they can put their questions in that aren't urgent. They can wait until Monday or Tuesday or whenever you do these one-on-ones. So I would schedule like maybe Monday morning or Monday afternoon, 30 minutes back to back to back, get all your team done, and just have these one-on-one meetings with them virtually over phone or over Zoom. They can just download Zoom on their phone, and you can just take them through the agenda. And it's just a really, really great way to connect with your team and start developing that sense of leadership. Now, continuing on the one-on-ones, so those are weekly. Those are quick weekly one-on-ones. I would recommend a quarterly one-on-one, a different type of meeting with each member of your team for a performance review. Now, I've talked a lot about scorecards before in the EOS framework, Entrepreneur Operating System framework from Traction. They are big proponents of scorecards, and a scorecard is basically like, what is the job role, responsibilities, outcomes, and deliverables of each role. And for a painter, we actually have a painter scorecard. And if you want that scorecard, I'll just share that scorecard in the description of this podcast if you want it. And on this quarterly meeting, it maybe is an hour long, or maybe even 30 minutes, depending on how much you talk, but it's basically a performance review. So you'll go through the scorecard and you go through each one of the outcomes and responsibilities and give them a rating on a scale of 1 to 5 on how well they did, on where they're scored at and where they should be scored at. I'm just going to pull up the painter scorecard so that we can kind of look at the outcomes, the tasks or whatever. Then I can just kind of show you painter scorecard, painter growth blueprint. Okay, so where are we here? Okay, share screen, present, share screen, scorecard. Alrighty. So if you're watching or whatever, you can check this out. But basically, role mission to provide an unmatched customer experience along with the world-class painting results. We're a customer experience company first and a painting company second. Now, here are the accountabilities. So we have provides excellent customer service. And then what I did is I put some bonuses here. So you could give your team some quarterly bonuses. Look at your budget. If you know your numbers, you can see what's possible. But it's definitely valuable and motivating to have bonuses based on specific accountabilities. And what this also does is this puts everyone on the same page for what you're really trying to accomplish with the outcome of the role, right? You're not just looking for a $25 an hour painter who's just going to push buttons, but you want someone who's going to provide excellent customer service, provide unmatched painting quality, use material efficiently, complete job on time and under budget, promotes the company and helps us grow, right? And so then we have metrics associated with each accountability. Now, you want a different scorecard for each role. So all your painters will have the same scorecard. Your production manager will have a scorecard. Your marketer will have a scorecard, and accountabilities and metrics associated with each task. And then after them, we'll have competency. So customer service, painting, marketing, time management, organization. What is the competency that you like for that role, and how do you rate them on it? Cool. So having these ones and going over their scorecard on a quarterly basis is super valuable. What I'd recommend is just like look at your calendar and schedule out all of your quarterly meetings ahead of time for the whole year for your whole team, right? Pick like one day every quarter. So that's every 13 weeks, right? So January, February, March is a quarter, April, May, June is a quarter, July, August, September is a quarter. So just like pick a day every quarter. So every 3 months, maybe it's the last day of the quarter, and schedule all of your one-on-ones for the whole year. So it's like 4 days of meetings, and you have these quarterly performance review meetings, and that is really going to help, again, drive your company to make sure that people are working on the right things at the right times. Now, we did weekly one-on-ones, we did quarterly one-on-ones. The next type of meeting that I want to bring up is a weekly or bi-weekly team meeting. Now, you could even do these monthly, depending on your team and the culture that you want to drive. In my company, we're a remote company, so we do a weekly full team meeting every single Monday. It's 30 minutes. But basically, we go through like State of the Union, what projects got done. We can talk about anything new that's coming up, any big projects we need to be aware of. We can talk about skill development, shout out people. basically all of these, even like a safety note, a little safety training, all these things that you want to get people together and just get them rowing in the same direction. Those can be fun. I do them weekly, but you could do them bi-weekly or monthly. Pretty straightforward. If you need a agenda for that, just reach out, let me know, and I can help you with that. So those are the main meetings that I recommend. So weekly one-on-ones, quarterly one-on-one, performance reviews, and then a weekly or bi-weekly team meeting. Now we get into the fun stuff. So those really, you would be surprised maybe, but these types of team meetings really drive culture because they get people driving in the same direction or rowing in the same direction or whatever you want to call it, and just like gets everyone on the same page. Now we get into the fun stuff. So my favorite thing that I would do with my painters is that every second Friday morning, so every 2 weeks, Friday morning from 7 a.m. to about 8:30, we would go for breakfast. And I found this great breakfast joint where we got like a $6 breakfast or a $10 breakfast or whatever it was with coffee. And I would take everyone out, and there was like 16 of us. And I would just buy everyone breakfast. It was not super expensive. And we just broke bread together. So we got there early, 7 o'clock or 6:30 or whatever it was. We told the homeowners that every second Friday, we're just going to be a little bit late. We're going to be showing up at 8 because we do this team culture thing. And we get there and we have breakfast. So we drink coffee, we eat breakfast, I do a little announcements, things like that. Kind of some of the things that we would do on the bi-weekly team meetings. But it was just like such a great way to get everyone together and having fun and chatting with each other and not working. And so it would be, depending on your relationship with your painters, I would try to encourage it to be a not paid event, right? They're not on the clock. You're not paying them $25 an hour or whatever to be at that breakfast because you're providing breakfast and they got to eat anyway. It's just like the same way as if you would, you were to do like a team barbecue, you're not paying them hourly to come out to a barbecue. Like that's just kind of expected to come out and attend and hang out. But it did make them mandatory. So again, your relationship with your team really depends on if you have to pay them hourly for that. I would really try not to pay them, but also make it mandatory to be there. And again, it really depends as well on like where your projects are and how big your city or your territory is. If they need to drive an hour, like work around that, figure out what works best within your specific situation. But I would try to get the whole team together, physically together, doing something like that once or twice a month. Super, super valuable in the morning. And then also some sort of monthly culture event, whether it's like a barbecue or laser tag or bowling or, billiards or something like that. These things are really not difficult or expensive to do. But they're so fun and they're so nice and people love doing that. And these are the things that when you put in the effort and the time and the money to get your team together, even if you have 2 painters, like take them out for a couple of drinks. Like it adds so much to their lives and to their how they see work. You're not just a stiff boss that expects them to produce, but you actually care about them and you're breaking bread, like I said, and sharing drinks, and it completely changes the dynamic. You're going to get more out of them and have more fun with them on the job site if you have a little bit of fun with them off the job site. And then the one last thing that I would do, so we talk about weekly one-on-ones, quarterly one-on-ones, team meetings, breakfasts, culture events, and the one other thing I would do is a monthly newsletter. And this doesn't have to be designed, doesn't have to be formatted. Even if you have 4 or 5 painters, I would consider doing this. But I would just do a simple, I just did just text email. It wasn't even like designed or formatted. You could easily do like a Canva template or something like that. But I would just do a simple monthly newsletter, update on projects, top performers, any hires or transitions, any policy updates, any required trainings, just to kind of, again, maintain this company pulse, some sort of consistent company pulse. And ultimately what this is going to do, like to implement one or all of these culture drivers, these weekly meetings and these culture events, you're going to get more out of your guys and your girls. You're going to get more production. They're going to be happier. You're going to get happier customers, more Google reviews. And ultimately, if you're not there yet, this will make it a lot easier to move to a piece rate system. Now, I've talked about piece rate a lot. If you aren't on a piece rate system, I would highly encourage you to do it, or some sort of bonus compensation structure based on their productivity output. I know there's some regulations in like California, but you can still do it. You just got to be a little bit creative on how you do it, right? So if you are in a place where you're not sure how to implement piece rate in your business, just shoot a message in the Q&A in the podcast. So either on Spotify or on Apple, there's like an interact type spot. type in the Q&A, I need help in this state or this province or whatever, how to implement Piece Rate. Tell me a little bit about your situation and I will respond to you there. But ultimately, happier painters will be more likely to work Piece Rate. And by working Piece Rate, they're going to be more likely to be successful, make a lot of money. I mean, my guys were making 40, 50 bucks an hour working Piece Rate because they were happy, they're productive, they knew how to be productive, and they loved their job and they worked hard and they made a lot of money and they made me a lot of money. So that's what it's all about. Anyway, hopefully this was helpful, guys. Hopefully you had a good little fireside chat here about culture, a little bit less structured than normal. But if you want that template on that scorecard, it's going to be in the description below. And if you have any questions about Piece Rate, throw it in the Q&A. I mean, what else can I say, guys? Culture is so important in a company. If you've ever had experienced good culture or bad culture, good culture is just that much better. You're going to get more out of your team, more out of your employees, more productivity, more profit for you. And ultimately, it's the most selfish thing that you can do is to provide your team a good employment opportunity because they're going to work for you that much harder. With that being said, have a great day, guys. Hope you crush it this week. Reach out if you have any questions. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Painter Growth Podcast. If you want to grow your painting business, go to www.paintergrowth.com or click on the top link in the description. Talk soon.